Good evening. It's 6:33, and I am calling the Affordable Housing Trust meeting to order. Any minutes to review?
They were uploaded and
Yeah, I sent an email. Think
Not
they're
uploaded.
uploaded to the drive, but if not, I'll upload them. But I sent them through email last week, so.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll review those next meeting.
Yep.
and Approve.
they're right here.
Oh,
They're in
do we
the
have them?
email. We do have them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we do have them. All right. Well, let's take a second and then go over it.
It was a quick meeting.
I heard.
Record.
Household inventory. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the January minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain. Well, good, so move. Review and sign bills?
No bills this evening.
No bills this evening. Any board member comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
The Shrewsbury Housing Authority has got the concept plan that we paid for it back, and the conceptual plan shows that the possibility of 20 duplex-style homes that can be built on the site. And they have identified the next 6 things that need to be done in order for the building to see what can be built and all that. And those things include an existing conditions survey, field testing, site plan and engineering design, stormwater permits and applications, traffic studies, and stormwater general permit applications. So Kathy McSweeney and Richard Ricker, or one or the other, would be more than happy to come to our next meeting to present more of what the cost would be and what they're looking to do and continue with the possible partnership.
Good. We would love to have them.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can invite them to our next meeting.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
great.
can do that.
Great. Any additional comments? No comments. Okay, next item.
Oh,
Yeah, so if we could just introduce Griffin O'Neill's our new assistant planner. He's been making the rounds with us at all of our board meetings to introduce, so he's been working with us for, was this week number 3?
3, yeah.
3 and change.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Um,
Started on a Tuesday.
That's right, so, but he's been attending the meetings, and we just wanted to introduce him. You'll see his face in the office and around town doing work with us, so we're happy to have him aboard and happy to see where we go.
Welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Welcome aboard. Love to have you attend a couple of meetings here. Great. New business?
so this would be reviewing the memo. So the planning department last week sent out a memo to the Affordable Housing Trust. This memo, kind of looking at its summary of the initiatives that the Planning and Economic Development Department is currently working on related to affordable housing, and identifies potential projects that the trust might consider with examples from other communities. So this project was, or this memo took about like a month, diving into research, looking at different communities, looking at different programs related to affordable housing projects. And I think, so for the first item, we gave kind of the background, what, the Affordable Housing Trust strategic plan. The third goal was recommended leveraging funds for development of initiatives that support local needs, including seniors and disabled households and first-time home buyers. And right now, the Planning and Economic Development Department joined a number of communities looking at developing a local ADU bylaw. So the state right now has released a model ADU bylaw. As of March 11th, 2 days ago, there was a,
What are ADUs?
oh yeah.
For the folks watching at home.
Oh, yeah, so ADUs are accessory dwelling units, and, let me just go. So as of February 2nd, so any accessory dwelling units that are under 900 square feet can be built by right in single-family zoning districts. And again, ADUs are accessory units that, so you have a principal dwelling, and you can build up to 900 square feet, an additional unit on your property.
Like a granny pod? Is it
A lot of,
kind
well, a
called?
lot of what we used to have are in-law apartments. I mean, many residents will be familiar with the term in-law. So an ADU, the big difference is you cannot discriminate or have laws that talk about owner occupancy or any relation. So right now, in our bylaw, in-laws strictly pertain to people who are either related by blood or marriage. So an ADU cannot be restrained by these, by any relations. So this would be kind of to allow more people to kind of rent out, you know, for seniors who want to have extra income. This would allow them to rent out to people and gain that extra income. And so, well, local regulations that contradict the state laws, such as what I mentioned, will no longer be enforceable. And right now, Shrewsbury allows ADUs by right only in the town center district. And so for a town meeting, we would propose that this would be by right in all zoning districts that allow single-family, to build single-family homes by right. And I think coming from that, we were looking at a couple of different programs after looking at this ADU bylaw, and we were thinking about how could we incentivize homeowners to, when they build an ADU, how could they, if they were the possibility of renting an ADU at an affordable rate, given that not only do we need more housing, but we do need more affordable housing. And so in this effort, I did research on multiple towns and communities across Massachusetts to look at policies and programs that are implemented to provide incentives to homeowners. And one program was called the Good Landlord Tax Credit. So this program enables cities and towns to adopt a property tax exemption for real property classified as Class 1, which meets certain affordable criteria. In practice, it would exempt the part of the property which you have an ADU on from property taxes. And this is for unsubsidized housing inventory, unsubsidized housing. So the major difference is a lot of towns, like for Lincoln and Barnstable, their ADUs are on their subsidized housing inventory because they built their ADUs through similar fashion through a 40B concept, or so those would have to be deed restricted for a time period of 15 years. So homeowners would be limited, or they would be restrained by having that for a 15-year period, and there was no flexibility. And so I think this Good Landlord Tax Credit was trying to be another incentive to give another option to homeowners if they would want to rent their ADUs or their extra units up for lower rent for tenants. Let's see. And in my research, I contacted Lincoln in particular, and their ADU program, their affordable accessory apartment program, is subsidized. However, there was no record of any ADUs being built through that program. So they are considering, so right now in their zoning bylaw, ADUs, all ADUs have to be affordable, and they have to go through a 40B process, a comprehensive permit process. So I think they realized that might be a bit limiting, so they are also changing their language to meet the state, because that also contradicts the state law. So I think if we have an option, rather than forcing people to allow, to rent their ADUs at an affordable rate, I think that would be a good incentive. And some of the towns listed are Salem, Lincoln, Haverhill, Great Barrington, and Barnstable. These are at least some of the communities that I looked at. And in particular, Great Barrington is actually working right now they have, so for the past year, I think in the fall, they had a subcommittee, and Affordable Housing Trust members worked with MHP and different nonprofits, housing nonprofits, to kind of look at the feasibility and possibility of having the tax exemption for their ADUs. And in December of 2024, the Affordable Housing Trust in Great Barrington voted to recommend this program to the Select Board. So right now, they're discussing that with the Select Board, and I think they even have a memo to kind of detailing the kind of breakdown of what the income limits are. You know, how can we make sure that people, there's a people who are suddenly have an increase in income don't get evicted, you know, making room for, you know, increases in income, so that, and these changes. So there are a lot of policies that they looked at, pros and cons. So I'm following closely their public hearings and their online meetings, that we can kind of see what a similar community is, you know, going through, and how possibly we can model that community. And also see what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
So is it possible, in addition to the tax credits, to have maybe some down payment assistance as well?
Down payment assistance, I think we can consider that. Great Barrington also has a home loan modification program that allows you to, a zero interest loan, to build an ADU as well. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach, where you have the tax exemption, as well as you have the loan from the trust to kind of build an ADU for your house.
Would there be stricter guidelines on that? Would they have to be like handicap accessible? Would they have to have certain specific things if they were to borrow, like, have money or to get the tax
Yes, there
credit?
would be, definitely there would be certain guidelines that they would have to abide by. And there's the trust and the homeowner would come into agreement. And I think when it comes to the tax exemption, every year they would verify the status of, you know, through income eligibility and income documents, verification documents, with the tax exemption program. And then with the home loan program, I will do more of the modification program. There are probably more policies that are stipulated that I can read into, but it would be having, you know, accessible to all people, ADA compliant. Yeah, I can look into more of that.
And like a time frame, would it be the life of the loan? Would it be a 5-year, 10-year? That would be determined.
That would be
Trust and
determined,
loan
but I
would
think
be-
it's 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And then, can we also use CPC money for this?
Yeah, I think looking at, one of the sources of funding that was mentioned in the memo. We have some, I've mentioned outside of the municipal funds, but CPC funds, as well as Affordable Housing Trust funds, can be used. And we can also leverage different other funds to kind of look at that.
Was the question, just to be clear, that in relation to the good landlord tax credit?
In addition to the good landlord tax credit, maybe, you know, system with $10,000 to help them, you know, build the ADU.
Like a loan.
Right, I think, the CPC funding does get a little bit complicated in relation to some of those criteria. So I just want to be a little bit careful, but we can look into that, of
Yeah.
like the specific contribution. But I think that would probably be a really good, a lot of what we see communities using that is there is a structured program that's developed between the Affordable Housing Trust and CPC. And CPC provides essentially the seed money in addition to the trust for that, and then so that's kind of how they get the annual contribution to continue to run that program each year.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's early and we're just
Yeah.
throwing out ideas, but I think it's.
We can explore that.
Whatever we
for
can
sure.
explore, right?
Yep.
And the next one is rental assistance programs. So, right now, I've printed a resource from MHP that kind of looks at how your community can adopt a rental assistance program. And there are existing state programs that many households in Shrewsbury probably are using, but this is probably to reduce the gap, if there is any gap, for people who actually, residents who need it. So kind of some of the questions, so this is kind of this document is kind of looking at what are some things that you have to think about, priorities you have to look at when you want to administer a local emergency rental assistance program. So one of the first questions is, what will be the funding source? Funding sources often come in restrictions like CPA money, Community Preservation Act money. Make sure the funding source supports your community need. The next one is, who will you partner with and who will administer the program? So the MHP encourages you to partner with a housing service provider, such as a regional housing agency. So because there is more capacity at these regional housing agencies to help with, it's a good idea to look at what housing agency is there in the Worcester-Shrewsbury area. Because I know Metro Housing Boston only covers till Westboro. It does not cover Shrewsbury, unfortunately. So we would have to see what regional housing agencies we can work with to administer. And what is the need? Consider services already being provided and try to identify the gap. So RAFT, look at what the housing authority is provided, Section 8 housing, other programs, and kind of see what is the need. And how will the application and documents be submitted? For efficiencies, forms should be submitted online with appropriate languages. How will we distribute funds? They recommend rent payments go directly to landlords. And how will program agreements be executed? Due to anti-aid laws, the Department of Revenue requires contracts between landlords, the program administrators, and the tenants. And there's a sample program agreement that we can work with. And will the program be regional or with the community? So, so there's certain, I think towns like Boxborough and Acton, I think they're doing a joint program. So it would depend on our capacity. If we can work with another town, if another town is interested, that would be great. But I think we are also a pretty big town, 42, almost, large, 40,000 people, I think. I would have to look at the census data, but we're approaching that. So I think we would have the capacity, but if we need the help, we can definitely look at a regional approach.
May I ask a question?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, to Carlos. I know that the select board offered rental assistance. Were there a bunch of applicants? Like, did you exhaust those funds? Were there more applicants than there were funds?
I believe we did exhaust those funds. I'd have to look back. The board did create that program, which was wonderful, and I know that people took that opportunity to use that opportunity. So I'd have to look back to see, but I think a good number of people did.
Okay.
And
It's a popular program.
I would say.
Thank you.
I think a major difference is that these would be short-term, they wouldn't be long-term. This would be about a period of 3 to 6 months. The shortest would be 3 months, and the longest would be 6 months. I think the intent is to help families, get back on their feet if they're facing any financial difficulties, but not a long-term solution.
And I just wanted to kind of pause here. So I actually do have experience from Grafton when I was the planner there. During COVID, Grafton ran a similar program prior to the launch of RAFT and IRMA at the state level. Even after those programs, we did see that some people were falling through the cracks. When those programs launched, we instituted that they needed to be denied by those programs prior to us providing funding. It was a good program. Obviously, when RAFT and IRMA came out, those, the pool of applicants drastically reduced. But they ultimately retired the program. But they actually used 3 funding sources for that. It was ARPA funding as well as CPA funding and then trust funding, and they had that kind of structure set up. Not necessarily that we would want to copy and paste that program here, but it was run primarily through a consultant as well, so it was administratively a very low lift and I think high impact program, which I think was pretty successful. So I'd be happy to kind of discuss that in more detail if the trust wanted to see a presentation on that or some more materials. I can certainly pull that together. But I just wanted to offer that that experience that we had, just anecdotally, and to kind of drive that point of how that was a really low effort, high impact process. Is that the way it was structured is the third party consultant that was finding these would only charge when they found a certified income eligible renter. And it was only $500. And having seen the back end of that work, I think that was more than a deal at that rate to get that certification done. And so they would then give the trust or CPC, whoever was the funding source at that time, would get a fully certified applicant to be able to then vote and authorize the release of those funds, and they would do it in either 1 or 3 month increments. So. I think it was successful. We could gear it to the needs that we see now. Obviously, that was a different context during COVID, but happy to kind of walk through that in more detail at a later date if the trust finds that useful.
Definitely, I think we will take you up on that. Today as well, I was at a Metro Housing Boston training on RAFT. And, I shared the document, and we'll have, it's about 62 pages, the entire presentation. And it has the nuts and bolts of the program and every step of the way, what it takes to get it from beginning to the end. And, in Boston, where I work, it's more rental assistance that we have, but they also have homeowners assistance as well, with the mortgage or the taxes or utilities. So it's a program that we can tailor, to our residents here in Shrewsbury as well. So I think that, I would love to have an opportunity to at least set aside a portion of some dollars there so that we can run a short-term program with 3 or 6 months to help anyone that's in need.
Right. And I think this is going back to the housing production plan. So it identified that almost 40% of renters in Shrewsbury are cost burdened, and the term cost burdened is for people who spend more than 30% of their income on housing related costs. So I think even with the new housing production plan that was in 2024, that still has a large number of renters in Shrewsbury cost burdened. So I think this will be high impact program, I believe.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think that this is something that we would like to explore, coming meetings, and see if we can at least push this along while we work on
So
our other projects.
could the funds be used for utilities and rent, any housing costs, that type of stuff?
I would look, I think
Or
it would
is
be
it
primarily
purely
for
just
rent,
rent?
but
Okay.
I can see if utility costs are also covered.
Because utility costs are extremely high
Yes.
at this point.
Right,
Yeah, so, in the Boston RAF program does cover utilities.
okay.
Right, and I know we talked about the affordable home repair program as well, and I saw that, and here on the report, and
Right.
that's something that we did discuss, and I think it's something that maybe we should talk about some more in detail, because I know that we have some homeowners as
Yeah.
well that are, challenged in, trying to keep up with the maintenance.
I think the intent was exactly as you put it. A lot of people, elderly people in Shrewsbury, are finding it very difficult to age in place. With repairs costing a lot of money, they would rather downsize and move somewhere else. So we were thinking, how can we help elders stay in the houses that they raise their children in, that people have lived in for such a long time. I think affordable home repair program would be something that we can explore as well. And Habitat for Humanity has a program that we can, work with them. They can, they have the expertise. So we've already established a relationship with them. So I think at some point we can explore the possibility, have a meeting with them, look at what are the specifics of a affordable home repair program and who's qualified and all the other different criteria.
Okay, so I think we checked off all four, and I think we're interested in pursuing all four and, learning some more about the programs and see
Yeah.
how we can roll it out here in Shrewsbury.
Yeah, I think next steps would be to review, I think, the memo again and all the resources, because I think I definitely bombarded the trust with a lot of different resources. So definitely take your time to, take it in. Have any questions between now and the next meeting, please ask. I can put that again on the agenda for discussion.
Would it help to ask Habitat to maybe come in again and talk about that program? Or should we reach out to, could somebody reach out to them and find out more about the program? What do you think?
I can reach out to them and see, have a meeting. We can have a meeting with the chair and the vice chair, just with us, and just see kind of some programs, some specific questions, and then we can come back to the board
Okay,
and report
that might be
back.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they
That
could
would-
provide some
Right.
examples how
Yeah.
it's worked,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
What's the typical,
Criteria,
criteria and upfront costs.
Upfront costs, exactly.
and how we find the people, or the people find us,
Yep.
and that whole, okay.
Right. There's a lot there, and a lot of reading material that was uploaded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else
I
on that?
Yeah, there's one that I just wanted to touch on. So I know there's a lot of material there. Out of those four in that discussion, I think the kind of the near-term actions, we can certainly reach out to Habitat for Humanity in response to that affordable home repair program. But out of that four, is there one of those items near-term that staff you think could prioritize or look at? One other action item that you can?
I would say, see if we can push along the rental assistance program.
Mhm.
I think
I
that
agree.
would be a good place to start, and then also, with the Habitat Humanity coming second, and then looking at the ADUs as well. So I think that we're gonna have a busy agenda
Yeah.
and a lot going on there, but I think, chipping away at, one at a time there, and I think the next 3 meetings or so, we'll have a different subject matter to focus on.
So, thank you.
Well, I think I have a little bit of a different
Go
list
ahead.
here from you. I think rental assistance, I think that makes sense as a priority. I would think that the next one would be the ADUs, only because we'll be updating our ADU bylaw very soon, and I think that there's a lot of interest in that in the community for property homeowners to add those onto their properties. So for me, I think anything to assist them with with those projects would be beneficial for us to explore a little bit, maybe more expedited. That's my
Um,
thought.
Vice
Okay.
Chair?
Yeah, sounds fine. As long as we're moving forward.
That's right.
and
Oh,
we're- and
absolutely.
we're,
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
that's fine.
I think, as a response to that, I think right now, we're still, the model bylaw was just released, so I
Right.
think we're still, because right now, ADUs are only allowed by right in the town center, so we are working to kind of, develop that for a town-wide. And also with the ADU, the affordable ADU program, it has to be as an amendment, because it will be, eventually be part of the zoning bylaw, so that will wait till town meeting. So once we have a town-wide ADU bylaw, I think then we can think about
next
that.
step.
But that
That
would
makes
be the
sense.
next step.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
I think it's a good point when we talk about timeline, is that, you know, with the model bylaw that came out, so we've already made a proposal to town meeting for a very kind of brief update on accessory dwelling units, really just to align with the state legislation. So, you know, with that, you know, we did, you know, just 2 days ago, had the model bylaw published, and we are gonna look at that to see if there's any near-term amendments that we want to adopt. I've skimmed through it, and I'm not seeing that there's all too much, but I do want to do a more thorough review just to make sure there's nothing that we want to pick up in the near term. But we'll still be working through that public hearing process with the planning board. I know the trust has provided letters of support or letters of recommendation in the past, so I'd be happy to, you know, do a presentation. You know, at the April meeting, we'll be kind of well underway in the public hearing process as well, and give an update to the trust at that time at their next meeting. And that'll be my ask from you, is a letter of support to town meeting members in relation to the ADU bylaw. That's there.
Fair enough. Great. Anything else? No?
For this item.
For this item here, we're closed. Okay. Next item, item 6, vacant town-owned parcels, inventory update.
Yes, so I think the update is, from the last meeting, we've worked to define the criteria with our GIS coordinator, John Holbrook, and GIS is Graphic Information Systems. It's a program we use to look at parcels in the community, as well as for any analysis, for zoning-related issues, for any other issues. It's basically a tool to help us planners. I think right now, and then, so what we've done is we divided the list into primary and secondary criteria by importance. And right now, there are certain data sets that have not been in GIS, and we have to kind of develop that from scratch. And so right now, we're working with our GIS coordinator with that. I think for the April meeting, we will have some more updates on data sets. But for right now, we have an environmental overlay and a zoning overlay to kind of look at which parcels are available and not. And no surprise, a lot of town-owned parcels are either open space land or wetlands conservation land. So I think it really eliminates a lot of the long list that we have. And hopefully by then, with the heat map that we're developing in coordination with the GIS coordinator, we can kind of have a top 10, we can identify top 10 parcels that are developable. I think that would be the next steps going for
Perfect.
the April meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
That will be helpful. We can push that along, and now we can go, that will be our item number 4 on our list, to-do list here
Right.
today.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, also, something that I looked with MHP. This is the MHP Housing Opportunity on Public Land program. So this is a technical assistance grant administered through the Metro Housing Partnership to support the creation of new affordable units on publicly owned land or surplus buildings. So we work with the third party like MHP to look at pre-development work on property disposition allows the community to determine the feasibility of developing affordable housing on an identified parcel. So once we identify a parcel, we can then come in, we can then ask for help with looking at the feasibility of actually building on the site. And then once we do that, we will submit a request for proposal. And once we receive that request for proposal from developers, we can go on to identify different issues on the site and then work to actually building affordable housing. So I think this is a nice opportunity, and I'll look into kind of what are the requirements and how many. So I think the loan term's up to 35,000 per project. So once we do have a project, we can see if we need the loan, if we need this, you know, to match with our CPA funds or Affordable Housing Trust funds, we can do that.
Thank you for the update. Next item on the agenda is reviewing the production plan of 40R zoning.
Yeah, so I think our intent to put this on the agenda was housing related zoning and housing related promoting affordable housing was with zoning was some of these what we were looking at. I think so kind of what I added to the drive, I think I added multiple documents for review. I think this will be something that will have multiple meetings because these topics are very detailed and have a lot of policies and different stipulations. But with 40R, this allows cities and towns to establish overlay zoning districts similar to the MBT overlay. This zoning requires about 20% of the district be affordable. And I think one positive is that municipalities receive a bonus incentive of $10,000 to $600,000 when they create a new overlay district. And the creation of a unit, about $3,000 per unit. So this is a bonus incentive to communities to create that. And also there's a companion law known as Chapter 40S that provides reimbursement for school costs for any perceived increase or if there's an increase in school children. So that's also, it's also a compensation for communities. I think we are considering, our neighboring towns have, or many towns in Massachusetts have it. Grafton has their 40R district, and they have on their website, they have the whole process detailed of how they, you know, worked with, had a public hearing process, worked with people, community engagement to, you know, talk about the affordability challenges in their community and how the community needs more housing, and this zoning is a tool to allow the creation and of new units to actually be built. And so I think we can review this over, if you have any more questions, we can review this over the next couple of meetings.
Yeah, there was a lot there.
Yep.
Yeah, so these next couple items, the items that we put on there are what's identified by both the housing production plan and the master plan as priorities for the town to consider. The master plan notably being before the trust was formed, but these are items that we've kind of established and have some history as being of interest with the town. So really what I wanted to do is just kind of put these out, have a high level look at them, and really just gauge the trust's interest in, same kind of thing we did with the other items, which is the priority that we should look at. 40R I think is a viable potential route. We've looked at that for, you know, a number of initiatives, but, you know, as mentioned, there was a project in Grafton, so that was the Pine Street project, the Grafton State Hospital redevelopment, you know, which did that. I think one of the benefits being, you know, mixed-use development is allowed, and, you know, the town can require mixed-use development, so you get some commercial property as well, and that makes it a really viable redevelopment tool where you have underperforming property. So I think this could be something that's structured in tandem with looking at, you know, vacant, underdeveloped or underutilized properties, and using a redevelopment strategy rather than, you know, developing new sites. So, just something to put out there to see if that's something that if there's interest to explore that, and the same with the other.
Do they have a limit as to, you know, the size of the development, how many units?
There are some restrictions on it, and I think, so you can go, I think it's 8 units per acre. It's been a while since I've looked at it.
8 to 12, yes.
8 to 12 units per acre. So, so there are some, you know, different bounds on it, but, you know, very similar to some of the other kind of zoning initiatives. 40R tends to be, I think, an underutilized program throughout the state. So I presented on this briefly when we were looking at the MBTA zoning, because we were going to look at if we could use a 40R zone to achieve MBTA zoning. That wasn't viable for a number of reasons, but you know, I think that is still an initiative that we can look at if we identify underutilized properties that would be conducive to that. And I think the major benefit being that there's financial benefits to doing 40R, and notably, you know, depending upon the number of units that are created, the town gets a direct payment. The town can also recoup school costs through that 40S program, and then there is a one-time payment simply for placing the zoning without even creation of the units. There is a formula that generates a state funding benefit for simply instituting the zone. So I think there's some steps there to be taken. I don't know if it's something that's viable here, but it may be an opportunity that we want to explore as we look at underutilized property, so.
Yeah, my question, you know, first question is, you know, we need to identify
Yep.
the property first to see if it's something that, you know, we can pursue. So I don't know if that will, again, as part of the order, will it be, it won't be the vacant town land, but it could be other options as well. So I think, where do we put this in the order of priority of what we have? I would love to explore it. There's, you know, think that there is an opportunity there to develop, you know, some additional housing. Hoping that maybe, you know, we can identify some potential locations, and then follow up with this here and see what, you know, what the next steps would be.
So, just to clarify, it could be open land that's not anything built, or redeveloped, a project that needs to be redeveloped?
Yeah, so
Zoned
it
into
could be
that?
open land, but,
More-
you know, I do think that there's, you know, the value of this tool would be as a redevelopment
Okay.
opportunity, especially with that ability to do mixed use. You know, one of the things that we consistently look at is, as new housing comes in, making sure that we're balancing the tax burden and the tax impacts in relation to commercial development. So, being able to leverage mixed use allows you to retain commercial space and, you know, potentially redevelop in commercial zones, and have that mixed use where it's residential and commercial together, so you don't lose that
I like
commercial
that
tax
option.
base, right? And so that's, I think, you know, for our context, obviously, we would have to evaluate this, but I think for our context, you know, my gut tells me that we would be looking at redevelopment of existing sites and really looking for, I think, again, that benefit being where you've seen that, like Northampton is another community, you know, Grafton did the old state hospital, Grafton did or Northampton did, it was either a state hospital or another kind of campus style underdeveloped property. So that kind of a thing where you have like large vacant parcels, using that as a tool is where this is probably most
Yeah,
impactful.
it's just identifying that opportunity. That's the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
That's the-
challenge.
Yeah,
Time consuming, yep.
okay.
Right. Well, I think there's more to come there, and I think that, you know, as, you know, we move along, and if there are any opportunities there that, you know, you're aware of, you know, we can have that discussion and then see if we can move this along as well.
Yep.
Great. So did you cover items 2 and 3 on that one?
No.
No,
So
okay.
expanded design guidelines. So I think in the context of affordable housing, so this was looking at to promote construction of, when there's construction of multifamily housing, of high quality housing, which are cost effective to build, operate, and use while using reliable materials, and supports the activities of renters and buyers. There are also, a major goal of these requirements is to encourage creation of units which result in prudent economical construction, sensitive to existing residential building types, massing, setbacks, and open space elements of a neighborhood, encourage sustainability strategies which result in low maintenance cost, energy efficiency, and minimum environmental impact on public infrastructure. So as we have, you know, more housing, as we're trying to balance, you know, preserving our open space and preserving our conservation space. So this is something that, because we do have existing design guidelines for the zoning board and the planning board, I believe. So I think kind of reviewing that, which maybe some of these are over 10 years old, but I have to see our existing design guidelines and how we can update that to be more environmentally friendly and also conscious of, you know, the neighborhood uses and use types and other important things.
So with the new developed multifamily housing,
Mhm.
are we also pushing for passive house, electrified heat?
So not in our zoning, the building code does that in some respects. I'd have to coordinate with them if it's, you know, full passive house, I don't know. I know it's pretty close to it, the new building codes do require it. So, I think that winds up being a little bit more, building code, I think in terms of the guidelines, so the trust, I'm sure, is familiar with, the design guidelines in the town center, that were instituted as part of that town center bylaw, fairly recently. That was, I think, part of the recommendation that's born out of the recommendation from, the master plan, to look at design guidelines. I think that's been successful. We've seen some projects that have really, kind of, you know, developed in a better, format and, you know, more modern context that fits with, you know, what is a challenging development, you know, pre-zoning downtowns. It's traditional for most New England town centers. So, you know, what we would look at for expanding it is if there's interest in looking at doing more town-wide or neighborhood-specific design guidelines, or if we want to target specific use types. So, for example, multifamily housing, a lot of our zoning operates in a way that through the special permit criteria, we have not explicit design guidelines, but we have, you know, design criteria within that. We could do a separate standalone document of design guidelines of essentially what is when we talk about some of those more subjective matters of what is the community character, what is the architectural feel of a neighborhood, we could try to spell that out in more of a design guideline document that then allows the board to point to that as they render special permit criteria. Gives just a little bit more weight to that decision and to that decision-making process. process, so.
Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Item 3?
Yes, so our third item is pertains to Chapter 40B permitting guides. So Chapter 40B is a state statute which enables the zoning board to approve affordable housing developments with flexible rules, with them being 20 to 25% of them being affordable. And I think looking at that, we have had some projects in the past, and we have the Green Street Emerald Run development that was approved last year. So in the context of existing 40B approved developments, we have an existing rules and regulations, but this looks more about at the process for the staff perspective. So maybe something that we can develop as more understanding for townwide, and also something to allow guidelines that when we are looking at 40B developments, which a lot of them are sometimes very different from the rest of the neighborhood, how can they also incorporate design guidelines that, again, going back to neighborhood character, and also, facades and different things we can look at to accommodate a development in that neighborhood. And I think so for the next meeting, reviewing these, I think some of the documents that I put on the drive, we can review them. You can have, and if you have any more questions, we can discuss them at the next meeting. And any other documents in the meantime related to any of these items, I can add more for your information if you would like. I know there are already a lot of materials on the drive, but I think reading is understanding some of these are very comprehensive and very even for a supply they contain many details, so to understand.
We'll review them and come back with a bunch of questions.
All right.
So I'm just gonna ask my same question out of those 3 items. Is there one that the trust would like to see staff really kind of dig into, or in order, kind of prioritization? We'll work on workload, but and a schedule to present it, but.
You must
What would
be
be
fully staffed to look at asking for
I
more
know.
work.
More work.
I don't know yet. I think we'll come back to you
Okay.
at the next meeting.
Totally fair.
Give us an opportunity to dive into this and into it
Absolutely.
a little more.
Yep.
I know I have a favorite, but I'm not going.
I have one too, but I'm not gonna say it.
Great.
Hopefully it's all the same favorites.
Just write it down and give it to Chris, and
Hand it to
then
Chris.
we'll look at it.
We'll secret ballot.
Yeah, we'll review it next meeting. Great. Item C, May 26th town meeting outlook.
I think, so this item, I think, talking with Chris and the planning department, we have, the articles for this year, what are the zoning that we would want for this town meeting. I think, looking for next year, we were thinking about, what, zoning we could relate it to housing. And I think we'll keep you updated on this. We would like the Affordable Housing Trust, to partner with them, to have, to talk about the zoning, as an additional resource for people. Because there will be, the planning board usually hears any zoning, but I think, especially if it's housing related, I think it would be good for the Affordable Housing Trust to engage. And then when we have committee engagement sessions, if you would all like to attend them and have any comments, that would also be helpful as we develop some of these bylaws.
We will help out wherever we can.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's primarily kind of based on timeline, so just to drive that a little bit more, traditionally, we kind of come to the town, and to planning board around, and select board around, January, February with our zoning proposals for the May town meeting. As part of our goals for next year, we're really focusing on deeper community engagement as part of our preliminary goals. And this is kind of related to that, is that going into the May 2026 town meeting, we really want to make the community and local stakeholders a real part of the process of developing that zoning proposal. So what we've included as materials here are concepts that our office just internally is considering for May 2026. Some of them are related to housing. They're just that really broad concepts, and so we're going to be looking to refine those. And I just wanted to put that out there and put those concepts into the hand of the trust to start to kind of think about, so that as we go into that framework and probably prior to that January, so prior to 2026, at the tail end of 2025, really trying to get that a little bit of lead time. Just want to have that kind of in your guys' minds to formulate that as we move into that process. So.
Got it. Any questions? None from the team. Good. Moving on, item 7, any correspondence?
No correspondence this evening.
No correspondence. And next meeting is scheduled for April 9th or the week of the
Eleven.
The
10th.
The
It's
10th, I believe.
April
10th.
10th.
And I will not be here. I will be arriving
Okay.
from out of.
Well, you better hurry up.
And I will not make
Pedal
it.
to the metal,
I
Hector.
will not make it. I will be traveling, so I'll be flying back that day. I don't know if
Let
anyone,
me look at
You-
some availabilities.
It sounds
Planning
like we're
board
gonna
is
have a pretty
3rd.
big meeting, so
Yes.
it'd be important for you to be here.
I can look at availability for that next week, on the 16th or 17th. That Thursday, let me know your availabilities.
Wednesday and Thursday, both
Yeah, Wednesday
days
or
work for
Thursday.
me.
Both days work for me.
16 preferred.
16th? Okay. And there might be, school
Right.
committee, so I will check that.
Madam Vice Chair, will the 16th work for you?
I have cards, but I can make it work, yes. I'll make it work, yeah.
16th it is.
Let me confirm either 16th or 17th. I'll look if this is used, then we can either look at the police department, conference room or conference room A, if
Great.
this is booked.
That'll work. Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
31.